Hello, everyone. So today I'm going to be recording the week's 3 worth of work, so April 27th through May 1st. This week we do have a lot of activities, so be prepared for that. I'm going to be bouncing back and forth between the activity guide and the doodle sheet. But I am starting off with the doodle sheet as it lays down the foundation for activity 1. So today we're going to start off talking about the Kendrick family. So the Kendrick family, now this is not the actual family we're going to be looking at, but as you can see, this family in the picture is spotted with members who have the trait of albinism. So albinism is a rare genetic trait found in many species. Organisms with albinism are unable to produce pigment proteins. In animals, the protein affected is melanin. In plants, it is chlorophyll. So we have a albino, what is that, hedgehog, an alligator, and there's some plants there. So we are going to be bouncing back and forth between activity 1, the Kendrick family. So for those of you that don't know, there is an activity guide. It looks like this. Okay, and we are going to be doing activity 1 right now. So, bear with me. It's going to take time for the bouncing back and forth to happen. Come on, you can do it. So we're starting with activity 1. So this is the Kendrick family. As you can see, these are the parents of the family. They have 4 children. The eldest is Tom, the youngest is Anne. Tom is married, and so is Anne. Both marriages has resulted in 2 children each. And by looking at it, we can see that Arlene and Christopher both are suffering from albinism. So what is the pattern? So based on what I'm seeing right now, it skips generations and it affects both males and females. So what you're going to do is figure out what the variations are for this trait. So based on this, I'll say either they have albinism or they don't. So there would be 2. What are the alleles? Assign letters to the alleles. Study the pattern. What allele is dominant and what is recessive? What variations of the trait results from each of the possible 3 combinations? Now, go to the pedigree and fill in the versions, a combination of letters. As much as you can know for sure, leave a space like that for unknown alleles for each member of the family. So we're going to explain how grandmother and her grandson have albinism while everyone else in the family has normal skin pigmentation. Okay, so based on looking at this, I'm going to choose the letter A. If you happen to choose a different letter, that is fine. So since it's clear that this trait is not a dominant one, it must be recessive, I'm going to give Arlene, I'm going to use big A for normal and little a for albino. So based on that, we can tell the combination of these traits. If there is a big A, it is going to be, that person is going to have normal because they have 2 of the dominant characteristics. A big A and little a, while they do have that little a, they're just going to be a carrier because they have that big A as well. So they are going to appear with normal pigmentation, while little a is going to equal albino. So given that, we know that Arlene and Christopher, who both very clearly display the traits of albinism, are going to both be little a. And George, Arlene's husband and father of her children, we don't quite know what his are. We know he definitely has 1 big A, but we don't know what the second one is because he could be big A, but he could also be big A as a carrier of the trait. So we can assume that these 3 are going to be big A, little a. Also, Anne is going to be little a. So based off this, I'm not 100% sure if this is what their genotype is. Otherwise, we could automatically assume that George would be big A for this to happen. Okay, so Tom married Sandra. So we're not 100% sure if Sandra is big A, little a, but she definitely has at least one big A because she has normal skin pigmentation. Michael, or their children, Daniel and Alan, because we don't know what mom has, they at least have one big A, and we can tell by their appearance that they are not suffering from, well, they do not have this trait. Michael, Abigail, because we don't know what dad is here, Abigail here appears to be normal. So we can assume that Michael, in order for Christopher to get 2 little A's, he had gotten one from dad and one from mom. So because Michael doesn't appear to have any pigmentation differences, he is going to be normal. So he is going to have a big A, little a. Okay. So alleles, the alleles we're looking at. Big A, little a. The genotypes are going to be big A, little a, little a, little a. The phenotypes are going to be normal or albino. Heterozygous means that there is a big A and a little a, while homozygous, and this is just an example, we don't know if Alan has this genotype, would be 2 of the same. So big A, big A. So Arlene is definitely homozygous for little a, and so is Christopher. Okay. So a person can have pigment or be albino. Having pigment is dominant and albinism is recessive. A pigment, or big A equals pigment, little a equals albino. A person can have the genotype AA, A little a, little a, little a. Arlene was albino and her children and her husband was pigmented. Arlene gave each of her children the little a allele and her husband gave them the A allele. So all of them were carriers of albinism. Christopher's mother married another carrier for albinism, which resulted in Christopher inheriting an A allele from each parent, causing him to be albino. Okay. Genes contain heritable information and comes in different forms. This is called alleles. A parent passes only one allele to each offspring, and alleles can be dominant or recessive. So the dominant one is going to be the one that kind of overshadows the other. Random chance determines which of the alleles is passed on. So genotypes are the combinations of alleles, big B, big B, big B, little b, big little b, little b. Can be homozygous, 2 big B's or 2 little b's, or heterozygous, where they're mixed. So big B and a little b. BB and big B, and big B, little b equals a dominant phenotype, while little b equals a recessive phenotype. A phenotype is what you can see based on the genotype. So based on that, so I suggest you reference this. You're going to go to your copy, and you notice it should have your name on there. After you click on it, it'll automatically make your own copy. So you are going to answer all of these questions based on this. Okay, I just went over all of the information you need to make fully educated answers for these. They should be sentences, they should not, or I'm so sorry, they can be listing, so just listing of the phenotypes of what you can see, that's fine. Okay. Back to the doodle sheet. So I highly recommend you finish doing the Kendrick family activity and the activity doodle sheet. So I would stop here, press pause, go finish that, and then come back and, because I'm going to be giving you notes for the doodle sheet. So, since you have just finished the Kendrick family activity on the activity sheet, we are going to be taking some notes. So, first law. So we're covering Mendel's laws of inheritance. First law, the law of segregation. So the law of segregation is when we have 2 genes for each trait, one from each parent. The genes separate when gametes are formed, which is meiosis. So if those of you that did the work prior to spring break at homework, you know what I'm talking about when I talk about meiosis. If you didn't, you might not know what that is, and some of this might be confusing. So if these words are confusing, please look up the words you don't know. It'll help you understand what we're doing. Mendel's second law, so the law of dominance. Some versions of genes are dominant to others. For example, the big A, the gene for pigmentation is dominant over the gene for albinism. Third law, law of independent assortment. So the independent assortment is when traits are inherited independently of one another. So each is a separate random chance event. So this is just a description for you. So it kind of can show how there can be the different genotypes can result in different phenotypes, and it's showing that it's just showing that the different genotypes can have different phenotypes, and it's breaking it down. Okay, activity 2, so monohybrid cross. So find it in the genetics activity guide in unit 9 folder. So I'm going back to this activity. So on this one, basically all you're doing is you're going to be doing some monohybrid crosses. The first one is done for you. So in humans, dark hair, D, is dominant over blonde hair, little d. If a heterozygous dark-haired man had a son, so he has a heterozygous dark-haired man, so that means he is going to be big D, little d. It had a son with his blonde-haired wife. So if blonde is recessive and she is blonde, that means she has to have 2 Ds. What would the probability that the son would have a dark hair like his father? So father's big D, little d, because remember he is a heterozygous dark-haired man. There is a 50% probability that their child would have dark hair. Okay, next one. So a heterozygous tall plant is crossed with a short pea plant. What are the expected genotypic and phenotypic ratios for the cross? So it gives you the allele should be, so for this one we're going to be using big T and little t. So the first plant is a heterozygous tall plant, and look, I already placed it there for you. Crossed with a short pea plant. So if it's a short pea plant, it's going to have to be, P, little t. Okay, so I'm going to do this one with you to help you guys sort it out. So this big T goes down. I'm going to type in a big T. And from this column, it's getting a little t. So over here, we're getting 1 little t from mom and 1 little t from dad. Once again, here, we are getting a big T from dad and a little t from mom. And in this instance, we are getting, once again, 2 T's. So the genotypic ratio from this, you can put 2 to 2 or 1 to 1, but basically it's even, right? And the phenotypic ratio, because look, 50%, I guess we can do 50% too. There's a 50% chance that the plant is going to be short and a 50% chance that it is going to be tall. And the phenotypic ratio is also going to be 50% tall, 50% short. You're going to continue on and do the next 2 by yourselves. So I highly recommend that you stop and finish this activity, pause this, get it done before we go to the next slide. Okay, so activity 3, the Genoverse investigation. So this is a long one. It's going to take a while. It's very interesting though. I personally really like this activity. I went through and did it just so that way I can make sure I can provide you accurate information. So for this, once again, it is in your activity guide. So you're going to go to your copy of the activity guide and you're going to click on this link. So it's going to be kind of annoying because you're going to have to be bouncing back and forth, and I'm really sorry about that. If you do have 2 devices, maybe you can do that. Otherwise, you're going to be window hopping. So I'm going to be showing you via window hopping, and it's fun. So you click on this link. I already have it open, so I'm going to be here. So I click on this, it pops up. So you don't have to log in. Click play as guest. The document describes how to do this too. Continue to Jennifer's demo. So you can choose your character. She has a pretty cape, so I'm going to choose her. You can choose whoever you want, it doesn't matter. So this activity has a storyline. It's really interesting. I enjoyed it when I read it. It basically says how this your avatar ended up with a dragon and how they got into this activity. But you can click through this and read it, or you can go to skip intro. So this is where you need to be. This is where you're going to be accessing this activity. So you're going to go, as it says here, click on case log, complete case 1 and 3. So go over here. This right here is the case log. So you're going to click on that. So this lets you do case 1 and 3. So to access this, you are going to click on each of these. Okay, so once you're in here, then you're going to be able to bounce around in there. So this is the case 1 playground. You are going to answer these questions and fill out this activity. Case 2, case 1, challenge 1 and 2. So let's say I'm done here. I'm going to go back here. Case 1, we're going to do challenge 1 and 2. So as you go through, it provides you space to write out the information. Same with case 3. Okay, after you have done with that, answering all the questions, and you have to go through this activity and do the reading and do what it asks you to do, follow instructions very carefully, and fill this out. I know I'm being vague, but that's because I don't want to give you the answers. I want you to experience this and then not be confused while you're trying to fill this out. So that's why I'm providing sort of vague instructions, because I want you to do this on your own and experience it. Okay. So next, we're going to go to case 12, and that is going to be about incomplete dominance. So it goes through how to access this again. So you're more than welcome to stop doing this and come back another time. But this time you are going to click on, when you go here, you're going to go here and click on Journeyman. And that will take you to case 13. I'm so sorry, case 12, right here. So you're going to do challenge 1 of case 12, and that's all of the instructions and the box you are going to be required to fill out. So this one's going to be a long one. You're going to have a lot to fill in. Once again, case 8. So to find case 8, you are going to have to click on the right one. So that would be under Apprentice, case 8. And here are the things you're going to click on. Do not click on these titles because that won't do anything for you. You have to click on these. Okay, so once again, follow these instructions and fill in this to the best of your ability. If you guys make small mistakes on this because maybe it's a little confusing, I'm not going to dock you points for that. I need to see that you try and that you put in effort. Case 9, once again, under the Apprentice tab. Boom. Okay, we are done with that. So that is just a very, very brief overview of what you're going to do in the Dragon Geniverse activity. I highly recommend that you stop and do this whole activity. Remember, this is a whole week's worth of work. So if you can't do it in one setting, that is fine. Pause it, come back to it. But before you continue, I know there's only a couple slides. I suggest that you do go through this, and then we'll go back to the doodle sheet. But now we're back to your doodle sheet. So right now you should be looking at that doodle sheet handout. Okay, so now that we've gone through all of that information, so you should have just completed the Geniverse activity. If you choose to do it out of order, that is okay, but by doing the Geniverse activity, you will have more information to help you with this. So now that we have a model to explain how traits are passed down, please go to your group's pedigree and take another look. So I'm going to briefly talk about all of them. So the Summers family, as you can see, I can't remember what they were suffering from, but they have two variations of this. They either have it or they don't. There are two variations. So that's the variations. It's present in males and females. And it looks like it's skipping generations. Once again, the Medeiros family, I'm sorry if I'm saying that wrong. They are two variations. They either have DMD or they don't. It looks like it's skipping generations and it only affects males. Next, we have the McCann family. This one is more complicated than the other ones because there are 4 variations, right? So it does not skip generations usually, can affect male or female. The Marcus family. This was the one where they had dwarfism. So this one had 3 different variations. They were either normal, dwarf, or severe dwarf. It was present in males and females. It does not skip generations. And yeah. So using our model, we can successfully say that the Summers family has this specific alleles. However, these families, while we have some information to guess, we don't know 100% what all of these genotypes are. So it's a little more complicated with these ones than with the Summers family. Okay, so the model doesn't fit. This Marcus family, so this family is this family that was suffering with dwarfism. So this one is so complicated, okay? We cannot tell what each person's genotype is. And that's okay. We would have to do genetic testing for that. And I don't know about you, but we're not going to be doing genetic testing in this class. Okay, so that is the end of this week's work. I hope by explaining everything, I was able to help you guys. I know that this new distance learning model is very confusing, and I just hope that this is helping you. Please, please, please read the instructions. Read them once, read them twice, take a break, read them again. I know that it's really hard when you don't have your friends to help answer questions, but email me if you have questions. Your classmates, they still exist. If you don't want to reach out to me, I'm sure one of your classmates might be willing to help you. But you're always willing to email me, or you can drop into my office hours. I have office hours Wednesday and Friday, 2 to 3. Just click on the link and you will pop into a video conference with me, and you can ask me whatever questions you want. You can also schedule an intervention. However, I would like to reserve those for ESA makeups, but you're still welcome to schedule them if you just really don't understand and you think you might need some independent time. Okay, so I hope you guys are doing well, and I will see you next time.